Hey guys, and welcome back to the Full Later Life. My name's Martin and I'm here to encourage us all to live a full and active later life. So if you're in your 40s, your 50s, your 60s or even older, then you've come to the right place. From my mid-30s to my late 40s, I went from weighing 165 pounds to close to 200. And honestly, I didn't even notice it was even happening. You know, I went from wearing medium to large to XL, but I was like, well, you know what? The cut from some clothing brands is just different sometimes, so nothing to see here. You know, life just got busy and my lifestyle wasn't all that active, and you know how it goes. Sit more, move less, eat like you're 25. But at 48, I decided to change all that and I started getting active again for the first time in years. Like I started running, I started cycling and hiking and just getting my body back moving again. And while that all felt great, at some point I just had to face the elephant in the room. And you know what? That elephant, that was me and my diet. Now, to be fair, my diet wasn't really terrible. I wasn't like deep frying Mars bars in lard or anything like that. And I did include some fruit and veggies, but I also was in a deep love affair with salty snacks and late night junk food and a fridge that knew me just a little bit too well. Chips while watching TV? Yep. 2 or 3 beers a night and most nights of the week? Well, yeah, sure. Second helpings like it was Thanksgiving Day? Well, that was kind of my life, really. And let's be real, processed foods were so convenient, microwave dinners became a lifestyle, and all this, well, it kind of added up because I wasn't burning any of it off. You know, the hard truth was that all these eating habits were built over decades, and I wasn't going to be able to rewire that very easily. You know, it's like trying to get Wile E. Coyote to cancel his subscription to the Acme company. You know, it's never going to turn out well, but he's just going to keep ordering that stuff anyway. You know, and part of living a full later life is about enjoying life, and that also includes what you eat. And so I kind of figured that if I tried to cut out everything I liked, I'd be hangry, miserable, running up a huge credit card bill on emergency calls to any therapist that would suffer listening to me. And let's be honest, few of us could survive on a diet of kale smoothies and vibes alone. And another thing I had to keep in mind was that being active was going to increase my appetite anyway. So when you're running or cycling, especially long distances, your body is going to need to feel that activity. And yes, it really is just math, you know? Eat more than you burn, you're going to gain weight. Burn more than you eat, you're going to lose weight. But if you don't eat enough of what activity you're going to do, then you're going to bonk or hit the wall, as they say. And by the wall, I mean you might actually consider lying down in the middle of a bike path and becoming part of the landscape. So what was it that actually helped me change my habits? Well, it was 3 things really. And the first thing was I stopped going back for second helpings. You know, one plate is actually enough food. And even when the food tastes amazing, somehow the second plate never tastes quite as good anyway. And let's be real, that second plate is really more about a habit than hunger. So why not maybe freeze the leftovers and make a meal out of it another day? And that's a double win that way, because you get a thinner waistband and a fatter wallet. Secondly, I got smarter about what I was cooking, especially when I wasn't in a heavy training cycle. You know, I started making simple meals with fresh ingredients. And then sometimes I'd make a big hearty pot of soup with real vegetables and not those mystery meatball things. And it would last for days. And you know what? It was just as convenient as microwaving something that when you read the ingredients label on the box, it was more like looking at the periodic table from my high school chemistry lab than a grocery shopping list. When I was training, I ate more intentionally, making sure that I was fueling properly, like having a good nutritious breakfast before heading out. No more grabbing a snack 5 minutes before a 10K run and then wondering why I felt like a dying houseplant halfway through. And thirdly, I just simply stocked better snacks, you know, like fewer chips, but I also made sure I had stuff on hand like fruits, nuts, peeled veggies ready to grab. You know, it turns out if there's like a bowl of grapes in the fridge, I'll eat them, but if there's nothing but Pringles and cheese slices, well, we all know how that's going to end up. And one thing I noticed was that I always snack way more when I'm just sitting at my desk, either working or goofing on the internet. So keeping a drink nearby, coffee in the morning, water, juice, or non-alcoholic beer in the rest of the day, meant I got up less to accidentally go raid the kitchen. And another game changer was adding some variety to my diet. I started trying new foods, especially international cuisines. You know, I've always loved traveling and trying the local street food, so this wasn't really much of a stretch. But, you know, incorporating it in my daily life, it really helped. You know, trying new recipes brought in new, healthier ingredients, and it made eating more exciting because, you know, when you eat what you always eat, you kind of default to the same old stuff that you like. And for me, it was like burgers, pizza, beer, beige food. And now our meals have color, spice, and way fewer regret naps. And just to be clear, I still eat all the foods I used to love. Pizza, absolutely, fried chicken, of course, chips, well, still happening, and craft beer and good wine, well, what's life without that? I haven't given up any of those things, but the difference is now I crave the healthy stuff more, and it just tastes better to me now, and I also feel better after eating it. I used to see a Big Mac on a billboard and think, that looks pretty good, and now I see it and think, nah, not really into that. And back in the day, I'd hit in and out a few times a month without blinking, and now I can enjoy a double animal style once in a long while, and well, that's enough. And here's the key, it's not really about cutting anything out, it's about adding better food to your routine. More fresh, nutritious meals mean you naturally start eating less of the not so great stuff. And you know what, food should be fun and it should fuel your body, and it should also fit your life, especially as you work towards a healthier, more active and more enjoyable full later life. And so if any of this sounds familiar or resonates with you, I'd love for you to join me on this journey and share your story in the comments about how you've adjusted your eating habits. What worked out for you and what is still a work in progress. Your story might exactly be the thing that someone needs to hear today. And of course, if this video has helped or made you smile, then please hit that like button, subscribe, and I'll see you again in the next video.